Now, as we look at 10x money, money and media is, of course, a medium for exchanging value, and its purpose is to conveniently track the value generated by members in a fluid manner that creates well-being. So the goals around money are, first of all, to track all flows of money and value within the community clearly in a blockchain type app environment that allows the pattern of value flows to be visible, to make flows of value easy and conscious so that they can be balanced between people. To eliminate invisible default on agreements is another useful thing by having this transparency, because if some person is borrowing or being late, etc., and nobody knows about it, then there can't be attention and empathy on that. To spend money, time, and resources based on the principle of scientific well-being. And so by correlating the well-being that is added or taken away from as a result of each expense. Someone buys a boom box and it costs $300, and the person's well-being goes up 10, 15%, but 5 people living around them has their well-being go down 20%. You've got a dramatic net decrease in community well-being as a result of a $300 expense. Obviously, if instead you can purchase a $20 item that enriches the well-being of the 5 people living nearby, that is a superior form of intelligence. And money is also to ensure that all things that can be produced and efficiently created and imported in the community can be purchased. And I think a goal that each individual contribute 5 or more times the value that they receive. That's a very great, that's a high metric of synergy. So we have a couple of different strategies around money. One is to reduce the need for money whenever possible. And so, for example, solar power, etc., you have an initial financial expense, but then you reduce the chronic need for money, from that point forward. Smaller houses, of course, pays huge dividends. Building houses, whether they're earth domes or otherwise, that are at a level of complexity that 5 community members can build in a few days, so that you eliminate mortgage, but also eliminate the need for highly specialized labor, is a tremendous, reduction in mortgage burdens for such a community. Having a community currency is also helpful. So having 2 currencies, your community currency and the prevailing currency of dollars, et cetera, or Bitcoin, this is a useful way of valuing that. I think a good goal would be to have half of the economy or more of the community be internal, as a way of creating more sustainability and better relationships. Have a community currency that converts using an app with an exchange rate that is market-based. You can't have a non-market-based exchange rate, otherwise you create a black market. So, the less a community produces of value to the larger community, the less currency there is to buy a new TV or movie projector or something like that for the community room. And so then the value of the community currency downgrades to a point where outsiders or investors within the community will supply the dollars in exchange for 10 hours of massaging or whatever it is. All community visitors buy currency in the community. That's part of the introduction, and this also helps to boost the community currency. Money is encouraged to circulate in the community in the form of community investment, individual loans, security for outside loans, and donations as well as sales. All value is created and transferred in the community based upon the well-being generated. Members can receive the symbol of that value in currency, which can be bought by visitors, and then outside money is spent outside. All value agreements are made on the app in the moment using the contract template that clarify all terms, the amount loaned, invested, etc., the agreed due date, the agreed penalty for not honoring the due date, the history of each person, their credit rating in the community. If there is a security backup plan, what is it? The interest rate, if any, and how a renegotiation would take place. All of these are set before a contract is agreed to. And people that are not setting clear contracts and are then defaulting and being defaulted on are both challenged equally in the community for creating strife. Because as soon as you have a sloppy agreement and then someone wiggles out of it, you create resentment in the community that affects everyone. And so how do you avoid that? Very clear agreements and accountability. If you're not making clear agreements and accountability, you are participating to the strife of the community by being a willful victim and a willful perpetrator. So it's an important protocol of technology because nobody's going to get home and notarize a document and then scan it and put it on the internet. But you can have a contract template within the app that says, is this a loan? Is this a purchase? Is it this? You press that. The template just asks 3 or 4 questions. Do you agree to this? Do you agree to plan B, this? That's the standard template. Yes, 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 yes. You click accept. They click accept. Then you have an agreement in less than a minute if you're on the same page. And if you're not, then it's all the better that you have to talk about that for however many minutes or hours until you are in agreement or the deal doesn't get made. QR codes and numbers allow instant pull-up of 2 people for financial transactions. There's also proximity sensors, but simply having a QR code on the back of everyone's phone or digital device so that a visitor or whatever can swipe the QR code and make a payment and it goes to that person within the community currency is very efficient and reduces friction. Visitors are also given a QR code, a laminate or whatever, so that this can be swiped so that any purchases and stuff they make that goes to their account. And as they pull that up, it'll bring up a picture of their face and whether they have the money to make that purchase. Vendors in the outside can be paid in local currency. Meals, etc., are issued in a local currency account if that is desired. And this, regulating that exchange rate, at some point, someone might say, wow, there's nowhere else that I can get, 5 meals and a massage for this type of exchange rate. So I want to be paid in local currency. No contracts can be submitted unless both parties agree to all points prior to the exchange taking place. I mean, this is a good guideline, and in the app, it can request clarity that both people choose and agree, or the exchange doesn't take place. Each individual is assessed by everyone in the community to determine the well-being generated by their behavior, money, resources, and presence. The positive and negatives are weighed with the goal of each person generating 5 times more positive value to negative value as a ratio. This is also an important point if you look at the research of John Gottman and marriage sustainability. If a couple has, let's say, 50% criticism and 50% praise in the verbal dialogue, statistically speaking, the marriage will fail. In order for the statistics to be in favor of the marriage succeeding, because of the brain's negative bias, its fear bias, you need to praise someone 5 times more than you criticize them to generate a realistic positive income or impact. And so in that scenario, with the negative bias that all brains lean towards, it's important for objectively that the interactions of people have an objective 5 times greater positive benefit than they do negative benefit. Because otherwise, the distortions of critical thinking, the distortions that come from fear and fear of pain, amplify the faults of people around us and ourselves and diminish the benefits. And so it's a useful target that each person has 5 times more positive benefit to each other than negative benefit. And at the time someone joins the community, they have a financial investment for the most part. They may have a particular talent that is in high demand, in which case the financial investment can be provided by other community members or the community structure. But in general, enough materials, outside currency materials for a year, and then $4,000 or more clearly outlined as an exit plan to the community. Because one of the problems in a dysfunctional cult that creates and does not take care of a large percentage of dysfunctional people in the larger cult is that if you bring someone into the community that instantly costs the community external currency to feed them and house them, and then they don't have any skills, and so it takes community capital to teach them skills, and then they wander out as dysfunctionally halfway through as they wander in, they don't have any money. And so then they're essentially stuck in the community. So it's important to have an exit plan as well as an entry plan for each person, and to understand that that's part of sustainability. It's also part of freedom, because a cult can be healthy or unhealthy, partly depending on the power dynamic. So it's really important that each individual enter with the freedom and ability to leave, not like, I don't have any money, I don't have any skills, I don't have any friends out there, I need you to take care of me as a child, but rather, no, I managed to stay alive until I found you guys, and I have a $4,000 nest egg that is sitting in the community treasury, providing cash flow, capital, etc., that should I decide to leave, that I will prepare an exit plan and have access to that capital to put first and last deposit on a new house outside of the community and things of that nature. And a financial strategy. How are you going to leave? Because part of the difficult thing with creating a microcult is that which is valued within one cult is misunderstood or undervalued in another cult. And so it's important for both the children growing up in the community and people coming into the community to also have an awareness that if the cult isn't working for them for some reason, then you can simply leave and you have a backup plan. You have a skill set that'll work in the larger cult. So, and a clear agreement with the community on how and why to enter and leave the community. I think another important protocol is that all expenses, everything that every member of the community spends money on that involves the community, is public on a blockchain and available to all community members. So you as a community member can ask the food purchaser for the kitchen, why are we spending $3 a pound more on this cheese rather than this cheese when this cheese is more local and more sustainable and is $3 a pound cheaper? Well, very often the response is, well, I didn't know. But when everything is transparent, you can make public comments about expenses and upvote those comments so that you have people who are responsible for synthesizing and acting on and bringing a human presence to it. But it really is much more of a direct democracy and dialogue, both virtual and in person.